Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Botbrack for short. I'm over Box. So, as suggested by my good mate and thumbnail creator Gary, I'm not on Facebook, Foley, shit sequels. So there's two kinds of sequel, aren't there? There's sequels that the immediate follow-up film to the first film. It's always a success because I wouldn't make a sequel otherwise. Or the sequels that may come in the franchise and be a bit further down the line, like the third, or fourth, or the fifth film, where it's absolutely shite and kills any goodwill and kills the franchise really. I think those are franchise killers, aren't they? So my first choice, I'm going to put these in any order, but I'll probably pick like a couple at the end that really are just ridiculous. But Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. So the Poseidon Adventure, great all-time disaster film. Boat gets toppled. The survivors have to work from the top of the boat that's now upside down to the bottom of the boat, which is now at the top. And people die, and you actually get some really good acting and top. Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, Michael Caine wanting to pay for his mansion. Sally Field, who won an Oscar that year for Norma Ray. There's another good cast in it as well. Just having a look here. Pardon me. You've got like Telly Savalas, Peter Boyle, Jack Warden, Shirley Knight, Slim Pickens, young Mark Harmon, Shirley Jones, Carl Malden, Veronica Hamill. I mean, these are all names from TV and film who did well. Anyway, so a bunch of sort of people who salvage people, find out there's some sort of diamonds or something in the Poseidon, so they go into the Poseidon and try and go down into its bells. It's like a reverse of the Poseidon Adventure. It's like, let's go in the top of the boat that's now the bottom, and let's go down to the bottom of the boat that used to be the top. Just one of those things where it's like, how do you make a Poseidon Adventure sequel? And the thing would be do the Poseidon Adventure 2 and have another Poseidon. This one can't be sunk. It gets sunk, and you just refilm the Poseidon Adventure. Anyway, it's shit. It's got no suspense. It's despite a really good cast, it actually flopped. It made $2 million on a $10 million budget, and this was a period where Michael Caine, to avoid paying tax in the UK, became a tax exile. He made several terrible films. He made The Swarm, another terrible disaster film, and what's it called? Shanty. Various bad films for the money. Anyway, so that's my first choice of just people making a sequel because a film made money. It's like, oh, we've got to make some money. How can we do it? It's also at the end of the disaster cycle where Ernie Allen's running out of ideas. Another more recent one, and I think we watched it, and it was just shit. The first film, it's an example where they do a sequel to a film ages after the original, like the Blues Brothers 2000. Now, apparently I have it on good authority that is shit. I've got to confess, I've never seen the Blues Brothers all the way through. I've never really been that struck with it. But Dumb and Dumber 2, the first Dumb and Dumber is a really good comedy at the time. In all truth, if you go back and watch Dumb and Dumber now, it doesn't quite have the fuzzy glow it used to. But Dumb and Dumber 2, it came out about 20 years after. Why was that? Well, Jim Carrey hadn't had a hit. Jeff Daniels kind of was a character actor, and the only kind of big kind of hit thing he could co-lead, and he's brilliant in Dumb and Dumber, was a sequel to Dumb and Dumber. But there just really was no point to this. It's kind of like when they make sequels like this, it's just trying to think, all right, we might make some money doing this. And it's just, anyone knows, if you're going to make a sequel that late on in the game, it's got to be absolutely spot on. Another one, two massive films, these next ones. The sequels to two massive films. And one you'd think, you could make a good sequel, as it's a horror film, but they're completely fucked up. So it's the sequel to The Exorcist from 1977. So a lot of things could recommend this. It casts Richard Burton as a priest. It's got John Bonham directing, coming off the back of Deliverance and Zardoz. Linda Blair's back. Morricone score as well. It has its fans. But this film's just incomprehensible. But more to the point, it's not scary. And that's the worst crime a horror film can commit, is to not be scary. And it's made quite decent money on the back of the Exorcist name. I'll just think I've got it up here. I have it made $30 million on a $14 million budget. So It did quite well, but it's utterly crap. Then another one, Grease, massive film. So what do they do? They can't do sort of bring back Travolta and Olivia Newton-John because they've graduated from high school. So let's have another high school tale. But this time we won't have, the guy's been in Carrie and the boy in the plastic bubble and Welcome Back Kotter and Saturday Night Fever. We won't have that Australian singer who's got a voice of gold and is known for quite a few hits and country, being big on the country charts in America. We'll cast a then unknown Michelle Pfeiffer, not her fault, and Maxwell Maxwell Caulfield, pardon me, who was in the Colbys. Weirdly enough, I went to see this at the pictures and I enjoyed it at the time because I liked Grease and, I was when did it come out? 1982, so I was about 11. But the thing is with it, it's kind of like a cheap copy, and this is quite common with sequels. You get sequels where they're low budget and have a plasticity about them, like Son of Mask would be an example, or something like that, where they don't cast, the original stars. The songs are crap. The only one I remember is Cool Rider. Cool Rider. So that's a shit sequel. I think the headmistress is back in it, and maybe someone else. Maybe Frenchie appears in it. She obviously needed a check. Another one, fucking, again, it's an example of being quite long after the original, but I think the original's a really good film. I think people kind of knock it because of its notoriety, but when you look at it, it's a really good Hitchcockian thriller with two brilliant star turns, a really good supporting cast, really well directed, and a great score. I'm talking about Basic Instinct. They don't make films like that anymore, adult thrillers. Fatal Attraction, without an audience. So Sharon Stone, she hadn't had a hit in ages and wasn't getting roles. I think she's a decent actress. Maybe she's hard to work with. I don't know. But anyway, she signed up for this. It's set in London. I think David Morrissey was cast as like the love interest. What's the Gherkin? He seems to have an office in the Gherkin. It starts off with Stan Collymore in it as well, which is really bizarre. I saw the film once. I can't remember much about it, only that it wasn't thrilling, it wasn't edge of the seat, and it was just ludicrously acted and ludicrously directed and everything. Actually, the guy who did it, Michael Caine Jones, had quite a good sort of burgeoning career. He's the sort of guy who could have directed a Bond film, but he just tanked it with this. It was a $70 million budget, and again, an example, there was never a sequel to be made to Basic Instinct. It wasn't a franchise thing. They pulled it off with a film like Psycho, where Psycho 2 is actually pretty good. But it's very rare to do that. You have to, certain things have to happen to do that. Then another one, a most recent one, this is so bad. I actually went to the pictures to see this with mates. We said, let's go and see this. Now, I never really was that big. I loved the trailer for the original, but I was never that big on it when I actually saw the pictures. But I thought, it's a night out, let's go. It'll be fun. And it was Independence Day Resurgence, ID4 Resurgence. What a pile of shit. One of my mates tries to make out it's good, but what's weird about this is Bill Pullman is kind of comatose in it. Bill Pullman was one of the standout things of Independence Day. Obviously, Will Smith had made him a star, but Bill Pullman, he got different roles from that and got more notice. And in this film here, it's just weird. It's like he's realised very early on it's a pile of shite, and he just turns up and phones it in. This was really the end of Roland Emmerich. He'd had a cycle of disaster films, and he was still making, like 2012 was pretty popular, but it put paid to him as someone who was going to make hit movies. Absolutely terrible. The next one now as well, great first film. Sleeper hit, came out of nowhere, G'd people up, turned Liam Neeson into an action star in his Taken, and then they did Taken 2. Now I tried to like this one, I think for a while when it's pictures I was like, yeah, that bit was really good. When he set the bombs off and they could work out where they were. That bit is good. But it's just, it's ridiculous. We've been taken. He gets taken. It's like, the whole thing is you don't incarcerate him. He's out kicking ass. The way to do this would have been to have random person taken and hire him to get the bad guy's back. They know that he got his daughter back or something like that, and he goes out of some foreign country and kicks ass. But what really lets this down is Taken's leanly directed, and it doesn't spare the violence. But this, to get a 12A, it cut away and used really jumpy editing. And the guy who directed it was called Olivier Megatron, and I think it's Megaton or Megaton. And if you called the second name's Megaton, you really should be doing good action films. But it was shit. Taken 3's actually made me worse. I watched that piss one night. I blocked it out of my mind. Here's another one. Like films where they do a sequel and it's like, this film really didn't need a sequel. It wasn't that good. I know it made some money, just enough money. And it's The Whole 10 Yards. So Matthew Perry's only sort of vague hit of his movie career was the comedy he did with Bruce Willis called The Whole 9 Yards. I think he moves next door to Bruce Willis, who's a mafia hitman or something. Remember, it was directed by the guy who wrote for Yes Minister, the British director, Jonathan. I can't remember his second name. I went to see the pictures. I think it grossed about $55 million. But it was probably a medium budget film. Bruce Willis, international star, it probably made $100 million worldwide. So the cost was less. It was like, oh yeah, let's do The Whole 10 Yards. I'm sure I watched this. I can't remember a thing about it. But it's just one of those things. Sequels to comedies are very different. We'll come to one in a bit. Where, it's very hard in sequels to comedies, as is indicated by Dumb and Dumber 2. There's loads of bad sequels like The Nutty Professor to Big Mama's. Well, Big Mama's House was bad anyway. Here's one that fills me with pain to have this in here. And it's a weird one because it's part of a massive franchise. But this is the only time that you could say a film is a direct sequel to the one that's before in this big franchise, and it's James Bond. So you've got Casino Royale, which is a reboot, back to basics, and Quantum of Solace is the direct sequel, it literally carries on time-wise. You're literally in the car with James Bond from the very end of the Casino Royale sequence with Mr. White. We all know if you know about Bond, the principal thing that went wrong with this, it was conceived at the time of the writer's strike. The script wasn't finished, the writers were on strike. Daniel Craig and the director were kind of given permission to try and finish the script. But aside from being far too short for a Bond film, they're too long now, but it was only an hour and 45. It's got jumpy editing. They used the second unit director from the Bourne films, Dan. I can't remember his second name. Apologies. But it's got jumpy editing. That's not James Bond. The plot doesn't make sense. It's all the action sequences are just really hard bumps, as Broccoli used to call them. The Bond lady, Olga Kurylenko, doesn't get very good outfits to wear. The villain's crap. There's a few good shots, there's some nice touches, but it commits the cardinal sin of being boring. And it's after Daniel Craig's stellar turn in Casino Royale, he can't save it. And I've tried liking it. It's always been low on my Bond register, but it's actually my least favourite. But it's the worst Bond film for me, and it's probably the one Bond film where I don't know if I'd watch it again. It's just crushingly disappointing. Okay, so let's look at a few films where they franchise killers. Well, controversial. I always thought Jaws 2 was okay. It did well at the box office. Yeah, Jeanette Schwark, is that how you pronounce it? He's no great director. It had Roy Scheider in. It was reasonably involving the plot. It had a good death with the electric cable. I always quite liked it. Jaws 3, well, that was pretty crap. It had the 3D gimmick. It had Dennis Quaid. It had something. It actually did quite well, Jaws 3. And it shows you, these films, why they're making. We made $88 million in an $18 million budget. The 3D gimmick paid off. I remember Space Hunter in the Forbidden Zone, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. There's another 3D film at that time. So $88 million, it's easy made, probably $300 million in today's money, I would say. But that didn't stop them, the bad reviews of that, doing Jaws 4, The Revenge. I mean, this is just ludicrous. Michael Caine, once again, turning up. I need to buy a new house. How much will you pay me? He got paid $1 million. He's hardly in it. He's so bad in this. He's so bad. But what's ludicrous about it is Jaws, it goes for revenge. He follows Chief Brody's wife, Lorraine Gary's character. Chief Brody's since died. It's like sharks have really small brains. They just think about one thing: eating and moving. They don't even like eating people. That's a thing. It's just an accident when they attack people. You see something moving, they go for it. Just the idea that this shark could go for revenge. I can't remember if they killed its child or something. Maybe it's like orca killer whale. I don't know, but it's fucking shit. And I mean, Jaws, there never should have been a sequel to Jaws. I'm defending Jaws 2 because it was all right, but there never should have been a sequel. Here's another one: is the Matrix. So the sequel to the Matrix, I enjoyed it. The pictures, but it was pretentious. It was like a 6 out of 10. So there was goodwill there. But the third one, is that the one with the rave, or is it the second one? I don't know. But it was shit. It was like a 3 out of 10. And the upshot was, because the second film was a bit pretentious and the third one was shit, you were just like, actually, I'm not bothered about watching The Matrix, which is one of the great films of the late 90s, but I've never watched it since. I've never seen the fourth film. What I know of it, the clips I've seen and the reviews, I'm just like, this sounds like a fucking abomination. And that's contributed to the Wachowskis been finished with. I don't think they'll get a big film again. The kind of, they made Bound and then they had Matrix, one-hit wonders, really. So franchise killing, Superman 3, what Richard Pryor film, but, there was some entertaining bits. There was Evil Superman. There's a bit where he rounds up all the 1Ps, which we all thought was fun. It's got Pamela Stevenson in it. But Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, I remember going to see this at the Pictures. Oh shit, they got Gene Hackman back as well. But the effects are so bad. The effects are just criminal. And it's Christopher Reeve, did he write the script? Oh, and then Sidney J. Fury directed it. He did the Ipcress file, terrible. Here's another one, Batman's 3 and 4. So I've never been a big Batman fan, but Batman Forever, I never liked it. I didn't like what they did. I didn't like the Joel Schumacher things. But anyway, it did well. Jim Carrey was fun. But Batman and Robin, franchise killer for a while. What a pile of shit. Taking all the bad things of Batman Forever and magnifying them. And I was really excited for Arnie as well, but he got such bad reviews I never saw it at the Pictures. But I don't really care, Batman, I'm kind of like, even the Chris Nolan ones, I like them, but I'm not a big fan. Another franchise killer for this time, Rocky 5. Remember, Rocky 4 was massive. Younger viewers, if there's any, wouldn't know how big Rocky 4 was and how it captured the zeitgeist of Reagan-era America. And Rocky 5, they try and do this more, they get John Alverston, G. Alverston back, they try and do this more low-key thing, he has his son in. But they've got the real fight, Tommy Morrison, in it. But the ridiculous thing is, aside from the film being crap, is they have a fight in the street at the end. That's the big showdown. Rocky's managed this fighter and then he's betrayed Rocky or something. But it's just a crazy idea that a Rocky film would finish with a scrap in the street. We could go out to the big market in Newcastle to see that. And then another one, Little Fockers. So taking the subject of comedy, Meet the Parents, really good, consistently funny comedy. And Meet the Fockers, although not as good, it does that thing where it's a sequel that works. Excellent casting, Barbara Streisand, Dustin Hoffman. Sets up other situations, reworks some good things from the original one, and a sequel that's worthy of the original, I think. Although not as good, it's good enough, and it's very hard to do sequel comedy and manage to carry it on. But Little Fockers, just fucking shite. And then one, Terminator 1 and 2, classic, all-time classic. Terminator 3 gets, Terminator 3, but it's actually pretty good, I think. Certainly 6, 7 out of 10. Terminator Salvation, wasn't that keen, but at least it tries to do something different with it. You got John Connor in the future. It doesn't betray his character or anything. It shows that future time. You got the young Kyle Reese, played by Anton Yelchin. Pretty interesting. Just probably needed better characterization, better direction, but cheese crap. Then they do Terminator Genesis. I mean, what a pile of shit. Bite Me, what's all that about? The cast, Emilia Clarke, she's about 5'1". You know, I'm not being, shortish, if that's the word, but she's not Sarah Connor. I know it gets slagged, but Terminator Dark Fate actually needs to have some good action and some good bits in it. I mean, Terminator Genesis, the way it portrays the John Connor character, the way, Jai Courtney, I mean, that bloke's the kiss of death in franchises, and which brings me to A Good Day to Die Hard. So, Die Hard 1, all-time classic. Die Hard 2, actually a better sequel than people probably think. It's grown on me. Die Hard 3, used to like it more than 2, but it is good. Kind of breaks the Die Hard rules by having it in a city battling terrorists instead of in close space. Die Hard 4, decent direction by Len Wiseman. Some really good action, Bruce looking good. Die Hard 5. I remember going to the pictures to see this. We sat down and watched it. We're 10 minutes into the film, and my wife turns to me and goes, "What the fuck has happened to John McClane?" The way he's just bumbling around going, jerk after his son. The director of this is a guy called John Moore, and he did that shit remake of The Omen. He did that even worse remake of The Flight of the Phoenix. Don't let that guy near a film again. But more's the point, sadly, I think with A Good Day to Die Hard, I think there's a slight blankness to Bruce Willis's performance. And if you remember, he did press conferences at the time where he was quite bizarre. And I'm not sure if it wasn't maybe the early part of his condition that obviously he's got Alzheimer's now, but possibly his neurological condition, maybe it was just ever so slightly starting to show its hand. Because it was just like, there was just something like he was literally, it wasn't just turning up to get a paycheck, it was like there was something missing. Terrible. So that's some of my sort of, later films, franchise killers. But my worst 2 sequels ever, my first one, I'm not a massive fan of the original, it is a beloved film. But what's crazy about this film, it breaks all the narrative rules of the first one, and it has nothing to do with this film, and it's Highlander 2. The Immortals, all of a sudden they come from the planet Zeist. Sean Connery's still alive. I can't remember this one. I went to see the pictures, and aside from the odd funky effects shot, I'm like, what's going on here? Just weird. And it killed it didn't totally kill Highlander because they did other films, but they're always kind of more lower key. But Highlander was always a cult film. But I mean, this film's just ridiculous. Kind of having a set of rules and ideas you lay down in a film, and then just discarding that with fucking nonsense. The only good thing about it was Connery had to say the word Zeist, didn't he? Shall I come from the planet Zeist? Fantastic. And then my top one, this is my top shit sequel. And what's interesting about this, the film was a kind of film that, there was a bit of buzz about it. I remember reading the plot before this film came out. I thought, if this film's good, they pull it off. This is a really good plot conceit. And he was using a riff on the Die Hard plot, which is you've got a bomb or terrorism in an enclosed space, and it's speed. So original speed, there's a bomb on the bus. If it goes below 50 miles an hour, it'll blow up. So the whole idea has to maintain that speed. It can't slow down. So what happened is, obviously, it's a big hit. So then the studio's like, well, how can we have a sequel to Speed? Now, one of the things was, in between Speed and before it and after, all those kind of Die Hard plots have been used up. So you could have had Speed 2 on the plane, maybe, but they'd done an executive decision. You could have had it on a train, which would have been really good, but they'd had Under Siege 2. So when, obviously, the scripts or whatever was done, Keanu Reeves was like, no, I'm not doing this shit. Why? People knock him, but wise man. But Sandra Bullock signed up, and then they got Jason Patric in. Now, Jason Patric's not a bad actor. He's pretty good in that Neil LaBute film with Ben Stiller. He's very good in Knock, but he wasn't a leading man. He's not Keanu Reeves, one of the 90s stars, and a massive pin-up. But then they cast Willem Dafoe as a villain, a wacky villain. I mean, he's a great actor, but they set it on a ship. So, I mean, if you had Die Hard on the ship, if you had terrorists taking over a cruise liner, that could have been a Die Hard plot. You could have had John McClane on holiday, like doing a second honeymoon with Holly, and terrorists take over the boat. So it's kind of like the Poseidon Adventure meets Die Hard. Perfect. But they choose, the boat, I can't remember how he's going to crash. I can't remember if I can't go above certain knots or can't fall below. But even when big boats are moving quick, they look slow as fuck. And it's just that thing where Hollywood's like, oh, we've got to do a sequel to Speed. How can we do it? There's money to be made. And we actually, it's so fucking stupid. I went to see this picture, I knew it'd be shit, but $164 million it made. On the budget was $110 to $160 million. So let's split the difference. This film didn't make money. I can't be bothered reading the plot. But it's got Speed 2 cruise control, and that's stupid. Because cruise control is something you have in the car. Maybe they could have had Keanu Reeves' cop having to race around LA trying to stop bombs from going off. And so he has to drive very fast. That's a bit like Simon Says. Again, you see, it's like the Die Hard with a Vengeance plot. But that might have worked. He's got to drive around LA really fast to get to the next device or something. But basically having a ship, threatening to fucking speed out of control because they look so fucking fast. Anyway, that is that's my shit sequels. That is my worst sequel in Speed 2 because that is just fucking dumb. Okay, I'll see you again. Thanks very much.